Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Attorney General Barr, for being here today. You've been very adroit and agile in your responses to questions here, but I think history will judge you harshly and maybe a bit unfairly, because you seem to have been the designated fall guy for this report. And I think that conclusion is inescapable in light of the 4-page summary and then the press conference you did on the day it was released, knowing that you had in hand a letter from the special counsel saying that he felt that you mischaracterized his report. And you were asked by one of my colleagues, Senator Van Hollen, whether you knew that Bob Mueller supported your conclusion, and you said, I don't know whether Bob Mueller supported my conclusion. You were asked by Representative Chris.
Excuse me, Senator. That conclusion was not related to my description of the findings in the March 24th letter. That conclusion refers to my conclusion on the obstruction cases. So it's a different conclusion.
It was exactly the same word,
conclusion.
Conclusions, that was used by Special Counsel Mueller. And on the obstruction issue, at page 8 and 182 of the report, I don't know whether you have it in front of you, the special counsel specifically said, at the same time, I'm quoting, if we had confidence after a thorough investigation of the facts that the president clearly did not commit obstruction of justice, we would so state. He said it again at page 182, and yet in your summary and in the press conference that you did, you in effect cleared the president on both so-called collusion.
Yeah, the difference is I used the proper standard. That statement you just read is actually a very strange statement for a prosecutor.
4 of the specific obstruction episodes, Robert Mueller concluded that there was substantial evidence on the 3 necessary elements of obstruction.
Well, you're a prosecutor.
I have to finish my question.
Okay. Well, you haven't let me finish my answer.
Well, let me just finish the question.
We can do both.
All right, good.
You ignored in that press conference and in the summary that Robert Mueller found substantial evidence, and it's in the report. And we have a chart that shows the elements of that crime: intent, interference with an ongoing investigation, and the obstructive act. So I think that your credibility is undermined within the department, in this committee, and with the American people. And I want to ask you whether on those remaining investigations, the 12 to 14 investigations, whether you have had any communication with anyone in the White House.
No.
And will you give us an ironclad commitment that you will in no way interfere?
By the way, I'm not sure, the laundry list of investigations, but I certainly haven't talked the substance or been directed to do anything on any of the cases.
Well, let me give you an opportunity to clarify.
Yeah.
Have you had any conversations with anyone in the White House about those ongoing investigations that were spawned or spun off by...
I don't recall having any substantive discussion on the investigation.
Have you had any non-substantive discussion?
I mean, it's possible that a name of a case was mentioned.
And have you provided information about any of those ongoing investigations? Any information whatsoever?
I don't recall, no.
You don't recall?
I don't recall providing any.
Wouldn't you recall about whether you gave information to somebody in the White House about an ongoing criminal investigation in the Southern District of New York or the Eastern District of New York or the Eastern District of Virginia or the Department of Justice?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't recall providing any substantive information about a case.
Is there anything that would refresh your recollection?
If I probably looked over a list of cases and thought about it. But I don't recall discussing.
You know what those investigations are. We've discussed them at your confirmation hearing, correct?
Whether, I think you're 12 or 18 cases, right?
You don't know what those investigations are, Mr. Trent?
I do generally, but I can't remember each of them.
And let me ask you one last time. You can't recall whether you have discussed those cases with anyone in the White House, including the President of the United States?
My recollection is I have not discussed those.
But you don't recall for sure? Let me move on.
I can say very surely I did not discuss the substance of any.
Will you recuse yourself from those investigations?
No.
Let me ask you about a couple of quotes from the President, since a number of my colleagues have raised the Russia investigation. And these are from the report, untruths recited by the report from the President in December of 2016, when President Trump was asked about the intelligence community's conclusion that Russia interfered in our election to boost Trump's chances. He said he had, quote, no idea if it's Russia, China, or somebody. It could be somebody sitting in a bed someplace.
400-pound person.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman?
400-pound person sitting on a bed.
That isn't what the President said. He referred to it as somebody. He also, at Helsinki, denied Russian attacks in 2016 on our election. Another lie. 2 days after President Trump was elected, Russian officials told the press that the Russian government had maintained contacts with Trump's, quote, immediate entourage, end quote, during the campaign. When President Trump was asked about it, he said, quote, there was no communication between the campaign and any foreign entity during the campaign. That's at page 21 of volume 2. The first quote I gave you was from page 21 of volume 2. The President initially denied playing any role in shaping his son's statement to the press about the now infamous June 9th meeting. The Mueller report established that the President dictated a misleading statement about that meeting through his communications director, Hope Hicks. That's at page 101 and 102 of volume 2. After news organizations reported that the President ordered Mr. McGahn, to have the special counsel removed, the President publicly disputed these accounts. The Mueller report establishes that, quote, substantial evidence supports the conclusion that the President, in fact, directed McGahn to call Rosenstein to have the special counsel removed. That's at volume 2, page 88. In your view, did President Trump, on those occasions and others recited in the report, lie to the American people?
Well, I'm not in the business of determining when lies are told to the American people. I'm in the business of determining whether a crime has been committed.
So he may have lied.
But I'd like an opportunity to answer some of these questions, okay? You started by citing this thing in volume 2 about how the report says that they could not be sure that they could clearly say that he did not violate the law. As you know, that's not the standard we use in the criminal justice system. It's presumed that someone is innocent, and the government has to prove that they clearly violated the law. We're not in the business of exoneration. We're not in the business of proving they didn't violate the law.
But you,
I found that whole passage very bizarre.
Exonerated him in your press conference and in your 4-page summary.
How did that start? I didn't hear the beginning of the question.
You, in effect, exonerated or cleared the President.
No, I didn't exonerate. I said that we did not believe that there was sufficient evidence to establish an obstruction offense, which is the job of the Justice Department. And the job of the Justice Department is now over. That determines whether or not there's a crime. The report is now in the hands of the American people. Everyone can decide for themselves. There's an election in 18 months. That's a very democratic process. But we're out of it. And we have to stop using the criminal justice process as a political weapon.
My time has expired. I apologize, Mr. Chairman, but I would just say that the 4-page letter and the press conference that you did left the clear impression, and it's been repeated again and again, that you cleared the president.
Thank you, Senator Ernst.